Okay, so the right one, the one on the right is the new one. So it's a little bit different. It's actually not really that much different, but I mean, see them side by side. I mean, this one, I guess, a little bit slower than this one. So this one is a little bit faster, and this one doesn't get as far. If you were to go through it, and then so you can see the first one progresses a little bit faster than the second one. So that's this one. And then this one. I don't know. I guess they're both okay. Maybe I like the first one better, but let's just leave it at this. By the way, if you want to know how to open up a second flipbook window, if you click and hold this thing, you can just like give this a name like cheese or another name. I just call everything cheese. And then it's going to open up a new unplay window, and it's going to flipbook within that one. So just so you know. So I think our pyro looks good enough to continue. You probably want to do a high resolution sim later down the line. I will go into details later on how we can sort of queue up multiple simulations in a row. So then we can sort of do our pyro, do our flip, and then and then mesh it all in one go. We could also add our rigid bodies in there, and then you could add wedges overnight and do all kinds of stuff. As I mentioned before, my final sim, so my final pyro sim was about, I think, an hour. So that one was quite fast. My flip sim, I think, was about 7 or 8 hours. And the meshing, so the conversion to volumes down the line was about 4 hours. So that's with a simulation that is, let me have a look. So if I'm gonna grab my actual scene over here. So let me just check how large the pyro sim is in this frame. So let's just go into pyro. Let's go into load one of the frames, and it's gonna think for a little bit. All right. See, we actually do have quite some detail in there. So this one ends up being okay, so the viewport here is bugging a little bit because I just drag it from my other monitor, but you can see it's 500 by 352 by 455. So it's semi-high resolution. You can see there's some detail in there. Oh, and what I didn't end up doing on, so let me just animate. Like we also need to compress our fields, right, before we cache. So let me just do that over here. Go back to our sim here. So what we can probably do is let's do this in our power to flip. Let's cast this and this thing in our power to flip. I mean, we already have our compression set up here. So let's, I guess, just copy this top IO. Just copy it, just paste it in here. And I guess we can save it out again here as a pyro sim. Then it will be compressed, and then we don't have as much to deal with. And we can also throw away some of these fields, like I mentioned before. So we don't need CD, fuel. We do need heat. We don't need rest. We don't need other rest. Only need these. So yeah, I'm gonna cache those. And then what we're gonna do is we will proceed to getting this into our flip simulation. Oh, by the way, what we maybe want to do is actually look at this thing in the camera. That might actually be a better way to do before we actually do any flip simulation. So just have a look at our camera. Let's do camera 1. Let's flipbook this. We can actually sort of see it in context. Call this, I guess, full scene. And then we'll open up a new Okay, so one more thing that I'm probably going to change, by the way. So what you can see here is that our pyro precedes our widgets exploding outward. And that doesn't actually make a lot of sense. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I think I also did that in my original thing, is I'm going to go in my landscape thing. And that's why we're doing this retime. So we have this retime thing here. I'm going to end up enable retime. I am then going to enable this time shift. It's going to remove these frames. Okay, I'm going to put $F in here, or just $FF maybe. So that will mean it will just animate regular, with the regular time. But what we'll do is I will edit parameter interface, add a float, call this retime, something like that. Okay, and now I'm gonna copy this thing, and I'm gonna say $F plus whatever in here. So then this thing will allow us to retime it. So then what we probably want to do is we want is to the first couple of frames. So okay, we want to probably in the second frame like really explode this outwards, something like that. So and then probably what we need to do is we need to trail this to add some new velocities. Compute velocity. So then it will recompute the velocity. This might actually give some problems with our simulation because the velocity that will be sourced will be increased in the beginning, but we'll see soon enough. All right, and let's just cache this into our actual pivot flip in here. So again, we're loading this over here. Let's just play forward a couple of frames so we can see if it will be problematic with our increased velocity in the beginning. No, that's fine. All right, so I'm just going to cache this now. And again, it's going to be compressed. So then you can see over here, 30 megabytes, 13 megabytes. So it makes quite a bit of difference. And that's also going to make a lot of difference when we start extracting this, because if we look at my main thing, 400 megabytes for one frame. So that's going to be quite slow. Well, it depends on where you're going to load it from, of course. If you have an internal NVMe drive, it's going to be quite fast. I'm loading it from a server. I have 10 gigabyte. My server is quite fast, but I mean, it's still spinning Rust. It's still just hard drives. So they do have, I mean, my NAS does get generally around 500-600 megabytes read. It goes up until 800-900, but in general, it's still going to be quite slow to load something like this if you don't have NVMe storage. So yeah, if you can make it 400 megabytes a frame instead of 800 or 900, that's going to take quite a bit of time off the rebuilding phase. So let me just cache this out. Okay, so I've saved it out. I saved out 55 frames. So let's say if I go to frame 50, this is my resolution. So I guess we could have a look at this. So I'm kind of, okay, let's go to my main cam. So let's just put a time shift here. Let's just freeze it at the last frame, at frame 50, just to get of a sense of scale inside of our flipbook again. I just made a second cam earlier to do a flipbook, so that's why the second camera is there, so don't worry about that. So yeah, I'd say it's pretty okay. Maybe we do want our camera to start a little bit further back. Maybe we would even need to come back and change the size of our terrain or some other stuff, but not too sure about that yet. What I don't like is that sometimes Houdini just tries to cook stuff even though they are not active. It's a little bit annoying. Let's have a look at our stuff here. Oh no, I accidentally moved my camera, so I'm really screwing up here. Right. Okay, I'm gonna just undo some steps. Right, let's go to auto view again. Like I don't like, so Houdini sometimes does this. Like now it starts cooking this thing even though it's not selected. And I'm honestly not sure why it just sometimes does that. Like it doesn't make any sense for it to cook that at all. Just disconnect my output so that at least it won't try to do it. Okay, let's get a camera, move it back a little bit further. Let's keyframe that. All right, let's do another flipbook. Let's just do it until frame 150. So like our Paro now isn't really preceding our rigid anymore. It might even go too fast now, but let's just leave it for this. I mean, feel free to tweak this however you want in your own scene, of course, but oh yeah, it just keeps going backwards. I think this scale looks somewhat fine. I think we can use this to sort of proceed. I think my time shift on my rigid body pieces is not there anymore for some reason. Oh yeah, so okay, so let's put this at 115. Yeah, okay, so that's better. So yeah, that's the pyro effect, essentially. So now what we can do is we can start piping this into our already set up flip effect, and hopefully it'll look good from the start, but maybe we will need to do some tweaking. But yeah, we're starting to get close. So now it's on to doing our flip effect and rebuilding it. Then we can start lighting and shading some stuff, doing some additional effects that I had. So I have my final scene. I have sort of a shockwave coming out. I have some particles blowing out. So a whole bunch of extra stuff. So we can also start doing those. But yeah, starting to look good. We're starting to get somewhere, guys. So Hope your scene is also starting to look cool. So yeah, let's proceed to the next chapter.